Tom. Hey, Dana.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's been a while.
I know, I like your furry.
I was feeling cold. Yeah, I was feeling cold today. It's been super warm here and today felt cold. And yeah, and I've also moved position because I'm in a warmer place, but the Wi-Fi is not great. So I'm in a place that it's for sure a bit cooler here.
Yeah.
Good to
Are
see you.
you typically in London?
I used to be in London, Richmond, and now I'm in Leamington Spa. It's so kind of at the heart of the country.
Nice.
And where are you coming in from? Remind me.
I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, you're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
In, and how is it there at the moment?
It's a little gray and probably cold. I haven't actually been outside yet. Hmm. Just, get up and go right to work.
Yeah, this is it, right?
45 degrees.
It's always good to have you, Dana. And Tom, good to see you, Tom. Good morning.
Yeah, hey, good morning. How are you doing?
Good, good. I like the top. You got
It's a little ragged. I probably got this is my Anthony Robbins Foundation sweatshirt. I probably got like 25 years ago. So it's a little, I'm in Connecticut. It's a little cold here as well. No, we've had some flurries, once or twice in the recent week or two, but not this morning. But it is cold, but just took the dog out for a walk and all that kind of thing. So.
yeah,
But
yeah.
look forward to the topic today. Sounds interesting. I sent you a message on LinkedIn, lengthy thoughts, but I don't know if it was too short notice or whatever. But I can share the ideas a little later in our conversation or whatever.
Yeah, sure, sure. I picked that up, so
Okay.
I'll have a look. I mean, if you want to mention that, that's all good too,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Okay. Cool. But great to be
Ah,
here. I put myself on. I have a noisy dog here, so thank you. Good to see you.
great. We've got like we're early, so that's fantastic. Morning, Ben. Morning, Bruce.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, good morning.
Morning, Valerie.
Hey, Kathy, good to see you.
Hey, girl, I'm in my car, so I can, but I'm on my way to another meeting.
And you're here listening in. It's lovely, always lovely having you, Kathy.
Thank you. I love being here with you, beautiful people.
Amazing, amazing. I'll
I'm,
introduce our guests in a moment. So,
I'm gonna mute myself.
yeah, sure. Stay safe.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Ivan. Good afternoon.
Yes, how are we all? Good?
Good. We've got our guests here. I'm super excited. I'm looking to see who else has come in. We've got, I know a few people will join. So we're on the hour. Hey, Lucy. Good afternoon, Lucy. Good morning, Anita. I know.
Hello.
Good. Hi, good to see you, Lucy. Hey, there you are. It's lovely having you on. Anita, good morning. And we've got okay, so shall we start? We are now a minute past. We're going to perhaps have people joining and I'll give the others shall we give them a minute or so to join. Okay. So we've got a few of you who've been here with us before. We've got one or two newcomers. And it's always a pleasure having you on. We've got our guests here who are new. And so for those who are perhaps your first time, Lucy, I know it's your first time. So just to kind of just how these sessions are run. So they run. So I'm Bally Binning, and you and I, of course, have met a few times, Lucy, I know. And I've met some of you in person. I've met most of you online. These bi-weekly AI sessions run every 2 weeks on a Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UK. And the thing is, we won't be having one in 2 weeks' time. So actually, this is our last one for the year. I know, I know. It's like, I was thinking that this morning. However, I do have some resources that I'll share. And this is a collection of resources I put together, and they're free. And I'll share them at the end once our speakers have gone through their talk. And you can, some of you may have the resources, perhaps there may be one or two you don't have. I put those in a collection, so you'll have the link at the end. So I'll share that. And we've got Suba. Hello, Suba. We've got Richard. I know Richard's note takers arrived, so I'm assuming Richard will be here soon. Hey, oh, Richard's
I'm
there.
here.
Hi. Good to
Hi.
see you.
Good to see everyone. Hey, Ben. Hey, Bruce. Good to see you
Hey,
guys too.
Richard.
Been a
Hey, Richard.
while.
Fantastic.
Ben,
Hey,
you're working on that beard, I see. Wow. Just take it off,
Always,
guy.
always.
Only girls in one direction.
good to see you. Good morning, Angie. Lovely having you on.
Thank you for inviting me, Bali. Great to be here.
Oh, amazing. I know I saw your message, by the way. So yes, and yes to your friend joining next time. Yeah, absolutely. It's great having you on. Okay, we're going to kick off. So we're 3 minutes after the hour. And just a kind of a quick recap if you came in late. My name is Bally Binning. These are Leaderized bi-weekly AI sessions. They run every 2 weeks. Unfortunately, this is the last one for the year because in 2 weeks' time we will be in holiday season. So I will be sharing some resources at the end. There'll be a link with a collection of some of the top resources I put together. No cost, you can access those, but of course I'll share those at the end. Just so that we've got two guests here. If it's your first time, if you can put a one in, that would be super helpful just to kind of gauge where, if you're new, then just so that we know that we've got one or two newcomers to the party. Feels like Christmas already. And if you've been before, just put a two, so we'll get a sense and it'll help our guest, the speaker guest that I'll introduce in a moment. So that will be helpful. Thank you. So we've got quite a few twos coming through. Yeah, Dana, I know you've been before. And so we've got, yeah, mostly two. So most of you have been on before. And can you pop in the chat, Richard? Yeah, I know. Can you pop in the chat where in the world you're coming in from? If you're not driving, obviously. I don't want you to take your hands off the steering wheel. So if you are driving, of course not, but if you're able to, you're at desk, let us know where in the world you're coming in from, just to kind of get a sense where people are tuning in from today. Okay, amazing. Suva, you're local to me, of course. Amazing. It's always lovely popping in, buying coffee. Like it's always great seeing you. I'm so glad you've made it on today. You've been saying that for a while, so yeah, good to have you on. Okay, everyone. So today, um, Richard says, didn't know that there were spas. Oh, there's a whole story around Leamington Spa. Yeah, there's a whole story. There are quite a few spas actually. So that's a bit of history we can go into at some other time. Yep. So Angie, yes, I know Toronto you're coming in from. Beautiful. So we're coming in from different parts of the world. We may have another friend coming in from Norway. She may pop in. Hopefully, I did say 4 p.m. UK. So they may arrive in a few moments. But okay, we're going to kick off. Just to let you know that we do have guest speakers on today, and I'm super excited to have our guest speakers. Um, Bruce and I have been in conversation a few times. We've got Bruce here. I mean, so there's going to be. I hope you all have your notebooks by the way, because I definitely will be taking notes. I've got my notebook here. I'll be taking lots of notes and learning from the best. We've got Bruce, Benjamin. They'll say, sent a message saying a little bit about them. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to be sharing what RAG is, how companies, how they from their experience, also how various models are trained. They'll go into some of the content. There'll be an opportunity at the end to ask questions. So I'm super excited. Lemmings from Leamington Spa. You're making me laugh, Richard. So I'm super excited that about the content that we'll get covered today. You can please, if you have questions, I will suggest wait till the end. If you do pop a question and you add it to the chat, I'll monitor the chat. So there will be an opportunity at the end to ask questions. This is where we really get to learn through asking questions because if you're just given content and then we want it applicable to your businesses where you are. Some of you will have more insight into the content that's going to be presented. No question here is a stupid question. We welcome all questions at all levels, so please, if you have a question, I always feel it helps other people. So if you think you missed something or you want something perhaps explained again, you've got a question, it's to have experts on like Benjamin, and they'll say a little bit about their company, a little bit about what they've done, their experience, and Bruce, of course. Then you'll be able to get those questions answered. I always feel the richness is in asking questions and getting those questions answered, and hence the reason why we put these sessions together. So, without further ado, I am going to hand over to Bruce and Ben. Da-da-da!
All right. Let me go through the sharing ritual. Can everybody see this? Is the width
Yes.
and
Yeah.
breadth of the conversation or the
Yeah, it's all good.
anyway, the slides? Cool. So Bruce and I operate a small business consultancy called Inspired Business Insights. We are on opposite sides of the United States and met doing some other work together. And while we were working, we realized that we had some pretty interesting shared values and vastly different experiences that could be really helpful to each other. And so we hitched up and started developing our own thing. And today we will talk about us just a little, and then mostly about RAG, which if you've never heard this before, I'll get into all of that. To make one request about questions. So the talk doesn't have like a particular like high or low level like set to it. And so if you have a question early on, like very early on, I would prefer that we get those questions early so you can get more out of the content as we discuss it, if that sounds fair. That way, folks aren't left behind. So I'm Ben. I was originally a chemical engineer. I did science and engineering for quite a while. Started consulting in 2012 in the oil and gas industry. It was pretty cool, but I was working in the world of like steel and fire and chemicals and manufacturing, and the scale was immense, but I wanted to change my work more towards getting technology closer to people, whereas I felt in a way what I was doing was anything but, right? So I moved from like oil and gas to digital technology, which in my case, I've been doing things that are related to data science, building different kinds of models for businesses and processes, and AI for 7 or 8 years now. Now I have here this principal AI strategist and technologist, and this word principal means that like leaders can bring me their most important ambiguous problems, ill-defined, big, have to deal with quickly. Maybe things are an emergency, and I'm the person that you bring those things to get them sorted out, whether can be done, can't be done, is it fast, is it cheap, is it expensive, do we have to stand up a team, do we have to do things solo, and navigate just all of the complexity, including working with people that's necessary to get technology into the right hands in useful ways. Bruce?
Hey, good morning. My name is Bruce Crane. I come to you this morning from my home in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. As you can see from the slide here, I have started a few companies. I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time during some emerging technologies. I'm going to date myself a little bit, no more than my white hair already does, but I was part of the initial IBM team that launched internet banking and e-bill pay. Later in my career, I was around for an emerging technology called archiving, which is I won't go all into it, but is now commonly used in financial, legal, and regulatory environments. But about 2 or 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to meet another very bright young man, different from Ben, that together we started an AI software company long before, about a year before generative AI emerged. And out of that, I got a passion for AI, really a passion for trying to bring it pragmatically to the business community, and in particular, perhaps to the small and medium business community. And so that's kind of my personal mission. It's very vogue these days to say you have a superpower. So if I have a superpower, it's my ability to connect the value of emerging technologies to what businesses really need. And as Ben said, he and I now lead Inspired Business Insights. We serve across a number of different industries and provide AI education, AI training, AI strategy, and if appropriate, AI solutions that we build or source. And lovely to meet you all today.
I'll tag that just to mess with Bruce a little. Bruce's other superpower is he will go and talk to people in person, which is an incredibly novel skill set these days. It just blows my mind. Just talks to people. What? Yeah, and well, we have a good time, I think. Well, we think we have a good time. But it's an exciting time to be doing business with this technology, leveraging it for our own uses and helping others use it as well. Now, this is where I'm going to start getting into some of the AI related content. And it's very important to me that I connect these terms with everybody who's with us. And if somebody isn't here now, right, and they may be watching this later, if you have a question, don't ask it. They may have the same question and not get the chance to have it answered because you didn't ask. So how I'm going to start is AI is all over the place. So much hype. It's in the news. It's in our phones. It's like saturating the news. It's saturating business. It's saturating like our thoughts and our hopes and dreams, and are seizing our imaginations. And some of the things that AI is and can be doing are amazing, and some of the things that AI is and can be doing are a little intimidating. And part of what Bruce and I do is take a scalpel to all of the fog, right? And we cut through that as proficiently as anybody. And the idea is to be able to give you a a lucid and a balanced view of what AI means, what it is and isn't, like where the hype and reality clash, right? So you can understand more about the technology that impacts you, right? Or the technology that you can use to better yourself, improve yourself personally or in your business, as well as technology you may use that affects other people. So a large language model, this LLM, if you haven't heard this term before, these are really big piles of cleverly engineered math, like huge, huge piles of math. If you've ever like taken an algebra class and had an equation for a line, like y equals mx plus b, we'll call the m, the slope of the line, we'll call that a parameter. And a large language model has, the small ones have 7 billion, right? The big ones have hundreds of billions of those parameters. That's a lot of math. And there's a lot of very powerful computers that let us make use of these models, of these stacks of math. And large language models, well, that's the large part, right? Why language? Well, the process that we use to make the math useful, training, we call it, creates inside of the model some representation of language. It's not human interpretable. You can't open it up and see, oh yeah, there's a zebra and there's a zoo, right? But when it's used in aggregate, it exhibits properties look a lot like intelligence. It's not quite intelligence. There's like math involved and some statistics involved, and it's amazing stuff, right? But I wouldn't quite say that these models are intelligent. They're very big and very powerful. And when you hear terms like GPT-4, GPT-4o, GPT-5, Claude Opus, Claude Haiku, these are the names of large language models that do the hard language work in all of the chatbots. Well, not all of the chatbots, period, but all of the chatbots in the most common products that we interact with, right? Like ChatGPT, or if you use Claude as an example. Is everybody with me there? I can clarify there if there's any questions or concerns before I go a little bit more into what a large language model does. I can't see the chat though.
I'm not seeing any questions, so Ben, I think it's good. Yeah.
All right. We're either doing really well or very poorly. So it's not necessarily helpful to look inside of one of these for what we want to talk about today, like the why they work, not this conversation. But what's helpful to know is we can set an expectation of how to think about one of these models in practice. And one of the little mental models that I like to use is think of an LLM like an enthusiastic, overconfident intern who, on getting the job, you ask them to do something. Like, go write a draft of this email for me. And the intern only knows what they showed up with. You haven't put any new knowledge into them. They don't have your expertise, right? They may or may not have your curiosity, your business acumen, or anything like that. But they will come back with an answer based on what you asked them. And you could read this as an expert and you're like, this email's way wrong, or got the wrong tone to it. Those sorts of things, like nuance and judgment that comes with deeper expertise, which are themes we'll touch on a couple times today, aren't embedded inside of these models. Instead, these large language models, with their hundreds of billions of parameters, learn the language that's captured in the data used to train them. And there's so much data, right, that's used to do that. But it's text data from common sources. So basically all of the internet, plus whatever books that these creators pull into their system, and any internal knowledge that they generate while running the models and learning from how they're used. And so the overconfident intern uses that language, not your language, as the basis for how they respond. If you've ever worked with something like ChatGPT and you've asked a question, like a straightforward question, but maybe a little ambiguous, it doesn't always, it's not always on the mark. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So here we go, like on the right. So what we get from this intern, from a large language model, is it can respond using text or the meanings of text that it's learned from, right? That's prone to errors. It's fast, which is nice, right? It's only as current as their learning and the information that's been brought in thus far. The intern can only be as clear and authoritative as the training data itself, right? And so normal training data, do not expect it to have the authority of medical profession, for example. I think that's a pretty easy example to cherry pick, but it can help frame our thinking of the capabilities of these models. And there's also another side of this, is that the models, when they're developed, right, they do have people doing a little bit of like evaluation, like this is a good answer, this has the right tone, so on and so forth. And the model can only be as good as those people who are helping guide its training. They're really good at sounding confident, even when they're wrong, so confident that it can trick people, does a lot. And as, I encounter all the time, right? They're going to confuse the meanings of terms that get used differently in different areas. You could think of different ways of using the word performance, right? How many ways is performance on the internet? And so if you just ask a large language model, GPT-4 or 5, about performance, you may not get answers in the direction that you're looking for. So the models are this way on purpose, right? Part of what has made them successful and also challenging to work with is they're imbued with some flexibility, right? They're used huge body of text, right, to start with, and enough flexibility and a little bit of randomness to help keep the model from getting stuck in responding one way to things all the time. The reason that models might go out of date, or that that intern may be behind the times, is because these huge models are phenomenally expensive to deploy. Just astoundingly expensive. And like the big ones, when they come out and they're new, we're talking 9 figures of development costs. And so you can't just update things like that every 3 days, every week, every 2 weeks. The releases are pretty well spread out. The other 2 challenges are where we face them, is that the world's information, not just the text, right, but all of the information is far bigger than computers can handle. You can't conceivably build a language model that can handle all languages perfectly well all the time in all circumstances. There's so many very real hurdles to making that happen that the creators had to make some trade-offs in how they approach these things. And so you get a starting point. We call them foundation models, FMs, in that you take these models and then you have to engineer around them to get them to do what you need them to do. So I'm going to pause there one more time. Any other questions? See some chats. Oops.
No direct question. The only thing that was Richard just commenting on LLMs, kind of
Yeah.
mirroring what we
Yep.
want, how we show up. And so
Yep.
yeah.
That's an excellent point. And I'll touch on that. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But if we're good here, right, now I can start moving towards our topic du jour. So how do we get the intern useful information? There are a lot of ways to bring information to our AI system. And one of the most successful to date, right, is what we call Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is like the title came from a paper. I don't remember what year the paper came out exactly, 2017, 2018 or something like that. Maybe a little later. The name stuck and it's not super descriptive. The idea is our intern gets a knowledge base to use before they overconfidently write their response. And so you ask your query, right? Whatever it is, go write an email on such and such a thing. And the intern can go to the base of whatever topics are, other emails that may help have a particular format or style or examples use, pull up relevant documents, collate them, put them together, and then craft a response that in principle is better than the LLM by itself. And in principle is important because RAG is not so in my diagram here, so when does things become RAG? Well, you have the documents, the LLM generates the response, right? And what comes out of that is retrieval augmented because you've retrieved information and that information augments your query, provides context. Doesn't have to be more fancy than that conceptually. Lots of little engineering details under the hood, right? But this is where the name comes from. And you can retrieve from all kinds of places. It doesn't just have to be documents, but documents are a great starting point because, as it turns out, people have been building RAG systems now for a number of years. And this stuff works better when you have strong documentation, when you're looking to look up facts, or not necessarily facts, but we'll just say strong documentation that you can query appropriately and pull up, right? That has the useful information. And that if you have lots of ambiguity in your documentation or lots of documents that are super, super similar, so you can't tell them apart, RAG serves no purpose, or at least can't perform the way that a human expects it to when you're at the end getting your output. So to touch on some of the bullets here. Yeah, so sources of the traditional documents, I mentioned that retrieval comes from many places. There's a number of approaches to RAG in addition to the types of sources you can have. We can go into those later. You can search, and I mean, it's anywhere between like 12 and 20 plus kinds of RAG. They all have their own name, and some of them are very useful, and some of them are useful in little tiny sliver rare cases. And we can touch on some of that stuff if it becomes helpful, but I'll just gloss over that for now. One of the things about RAG systems now that wasn't the case when they started is you can pull citations out of your documents. Right? It comes from this block, comes from this document, page, da-da-da-da-da. And that's super, super helpful for building trust in the response because a human on the far end can go back and check. And that is a very important part of the success of these systems. When you compare this, the cost of using RAG systems to trying to stuff everything into one enormous large language model, RAG is a really good deal. There are all kinds of things that you can do or need RAG for that makes that really good deal very expensive anyway. We probably won't get into that much, right? But I just wanted you to know that is part of the reason why this works. The areas where RAG works, where it's cheap, where it's like safe for the appropriate use case, it shines and it's amazing. And there are plenty of cases where RAG doesn't work and nobody talks about it because the market has purged a lot of the starting examples. And there was a quick question, Perplexity, most accurate regs to use. I'll touch on that, Dana. And citations always trustworthy. My answer is ish. Everything that comes out of an AI system with a large language model can have errors. There's a bunch of different ways that it can have errors. And one of the things that Bruce and I come back to, and we teach over and over and over again, is humans have to check the work, right? Like we have to go back. And if you're pulling up a document from RAG and it's straightforward, that's cool. It's just a rough draft. You can skim it and you're like, okay, close enough. But if you need those details and you need things locked into place, you need to evaluate the work as if your very helpful and overconfident intern wrote the report for you. So that's where I draw the line. Got to check the work. I would check the work automatically for anything that I was providing to any client, for sure. Because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for that part. Let's see here. And then how do you handle conflicting or outdated documents in a RAG system? That's a great question, Suba. We'll come back to that. All right. Any other questions about this intro to RAG before I start talking about examples?
I think the questions were just the ones posed in the chat, and then unless people have got questions, I think that the ones you covered on citations. Yeah, that was one from Dana, and also Ivan asked the same question about credibility and trustworthy. So that's great. We're going to see some examples here, so I'm excited about this.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really good RAG out there nowadays, right? If we keep the simple illustration in mind, right, and overlook what kind of complex engineering makes a product, like we see tons of customer service chatbots, things that are based on clear documentation. They just work really well. And if you are familiar with like Google's product NotebookLM, right, that's a RAG system. The NotebookLM is a product, right? It has Google's LLMs behind the scenes, and it has a RAG architecture to it, but it constrains you in how you can bring information in and what kind of information you get to product. So you can bring in documents at certain time, no problem, PDF files, text files. It can summarize YouTube videos and bring that information in, and you can build a document store of, I think it's 80, maybe it's a couple hundred documents that are suited to your needs. But then the LLM has particular designs to help support doing research in the documents that you pull up, doing comparisons and organizing your thoughts, learning and brainstorming. And NotebookLM does not reach out into the internet to try to get information that you do not bring in. And this is an important an important property, because the products that use RAG are all a little bit different. And when you look underneath them, like if you were to look at all the actual parts and components and systems underneath, they would look very, very different. the computers and the software servers and the way information is stored and moved around and processed behind NotebookLM is very different from, say, Perplexity, which is first and foremost a search engine, right? Now, Perplexity is like RAG is the beating heart of Perplexity, and they're really, really good at it. Leaders for sure. And they do different use cases, right? You have web search, you can bring external documents, which is another way of saying any document that's your document. Right? So your PDF, your text files, those are external documents in this product space. And Perplexity has, for example, like their deep research, which is RAG in the sense that it goes out and retrieves documents, web pages, and so forth from the internet, right? But it has tons of bells and whistles to bring the amazing research experience that it does. Now, Claude, I use Claude a lot. Have lots of reasons for that, but once one of these products really captures you, it's hard to want to switch, right? Because they all do feel a little bit different. But Claude has RAG. They added it kind of later because you have a point where your Claude conversations get pretty long and your documents can get pretty long and you can't fit all of it into a model.
Hello.
Yep.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well,
Thank you.
I will move to
The reason why I was calling is because I have an agency that.
Hold on. That's okay. We're good.
Okay, thanks. Yep. So when the context window, this is how big the input can be to that large language model. And when it gets full, it doesn't work. So Claude uses RAG to break all of that up into smaller pieces so it can get chunks of documents and more efficiently get them into the model for your project related work. There's so many more, right? And yep, a Delphi clone is RAG. And you use Chat or Claude without a RAG. Dana, the answer to that question is they're almost ubiquitous now because people have been asking for them and expecting them as part of these products. But there was a time where Claude and ChatGPT, et cetera, were chatbots with no file input and like no memory of what different parts of your documents might have that's valuable for generating that retrieval augmented model output. Okay, so one note here, because Richard had brought up something about products, right? Or something related to products. And so what makes the difference between like a tool and a product in my mind? And a product is software that's been developed to solve a large number of customer and consumer problems, kind of a common denominator experience for working with AI technology in the case of NotebookLM or Perplexity, right, or Claude. And a product does not solve all of your needs. It can solve a lot of your needs, right? But a product is a more refined version of the LLM, it goes to LLM plus RAG, then carefully think about how to fit the LLM and RAG into the way people work with chatbots, and you've got a chatbot with like RAG support on the back that becomes the basis for products. And part of what makes products stick is not how technically good they are, but how good they make humans feel, right? Like part of the reason I like Claude is because I like the way it talks, right? I'll admit it. And there's plenty of learnings at this point in the field, right? That a large language model, like it's not an ethical thing, right? It's piles of math. And if the piles of math are fit in a product that's engineered to give you output that makes you want to keep talking to it, that is a real consideration for the kind of answers that it gives and the quality of the answers. Maybe, for example, you're asking it something and it needs to tell you, no, you're wrong. That's not right. And instead it gives you like a soft, friendly, engaging answer. You're like, all right, well, I'll try using this anyway. That's a different user experience and product from, sorry, Ben, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to not look this up anymore, or whatever the case. But you don't see the latter example because products don't survive that. But there are times when you need a tool that can do that for you. And so they become like more bespoke constructs when they're more focused. Now, here's some real RAG use cases. You don't have to read all the text. These are abstractions from real work. It's not appropriate for me as a consultant to talk about the exact examples. So these are gists more than perfect representations. So here's some like real uses of RAG. You can use RAG at the enterprise scale to search millions of documents, right? Ridiculous. And behind the scenes that hundreds of people or thousands of people can use these systems every day. That's massively expensive and challenged to get right and do well for all kinds of reasons. But when the cost and the cost of the technology and the cost of the problem that's being fixed and the quality of the technology is sufficient to give humans an edge in using it, these can blow ROI concerns out of the water. But it's not an automatic thing. You can't just whip out a RAG and be like, yeah, here's this RAG system. It's going to do exactly what you want. You've got to test it. You've got to make sure that the right security and the infrastructure is in place so that your 100 people can use it safely. I'll come back to that question, Dana, for sure. So then another one for a smaller scale, like a medium team, right, who would go and talk to their regulation-related documentation, just checking up on standards and stuff. When you have a good RAG system, not even in a super expensive RAG system, but like sufficient for their needs and their size, you can take 80 hours of work a week out of a 20-person team and put those people on things that generate revenue instead of checking or having to go manually do every question from the document sources by hand. And again, these are cases where when the problems, the people, the value that can be gained here line up, the return on investment for the system really pops. And this type of system doesn't have to be enterprise scale fancy because you have a small team, right, who are more aligned in how they work with the system than any potential user who might try who knows what at the big system scale. On the smaller side, right, we have stuff that like Bruce and I do like a lot, right? So we chat with our business documentation, assistant strategy, just brainstorming stuff. We use NotebookLM for some of this. Planning, writing proposals, developing marketing collateral, very useful. And we can get work done that would take 5 to 10 times as long to have to do it by hand, or that we would have to get other people to do for us, right? Contractors or something. So we don't have to add headcount to our small operation. And again, we're talking like intern work. So we still have to proofread and check everything and make sure the messaging's right, but very helpful. Then there's a case of where we were helping a solopreneur with combining like templates for how they want certain kind of outreach with their brand voice, right? And examples of positive examples of writing to craft very quickly drafts of messaging campaigns for outreach. And this is another case that when done well can do 60% of the labor for this sort of thing in an hour relative to however long it would take you to do yourself. I mentioned like Perplexity deep research, right? And there's Claude research, and there's Manus and a bunch of other research type systems out there. And I liken these to an army of interns in that the systems will go out and do a ton of high level poking around, which is great for some basic marketing research or getting introductions to certain topics. And in like the right hands, like, you know, somebody like me who just like knows how to work with models and ways to make the model challenge its own processes, can get weeks worth of work done in literal minutes, which is fantastic. Again, these are cases that work, but there are tons that don't, that people don't talk about. Okay, so so I'll save the rest of these questions until later. Now, the retrieval, right, has some challenges, right? Interns can bring forth the wrong thing. And these are some examples of what that can look like. If information is scattered in all kinds of documents, it can be difficult for the RAG system to reliably pull up the right pieces and get them in the right order so that when put inside or put into the input of the large language model, the output gets you what you want. This is very common in regulated industries, right? And whether you're working with like different kinds of like tax documents and rules, regulations, and so forth, if you have to pull pieces together, it can be hard. We have a common saying in AI in general is garbage in equals garbage out. If your data is junk, right? Like bad data does not give you good answers ever. Or if the data is processed poorly, it can make retrieval, just not work very well. If you have, I mentioned something like this before, right? Text, like a lot of different text, it's all very similar. That's challenging, right? If your queries are ambiguous, for example, if you don't add context around your search on the word performance, you're throwing dice, right? You're not really guiding the retrieval system in the right way or guiding the model in a helpful way. So there's a chance that knowledge may not be in the RAG index, which sounds silly to say, well, why not? Well, when you're dealing with bigger systems, right? These enterprise systems, things may be missing. Outdated information, right? Outdated documents create outdated information. There was a question about updating this, and the answer is it depends on what you need the RAG system for. Some RAG systems, you can pull in and update the whole thing, like the RAG part, the retrieval part, relatively quickly, maybe once a day, once a week. The business case is what determines the final needs of that piece. There are other things that come out, maybe once a year. And when you have complex changes, like if there's a big change to a regulation, pulling in regulatory documents, you have to go check your RAG system to make sure that the big changes are being handled properly. So it can be quite manual for big enterprise complex cases. All right, I'll get back to that one too. All right, so then here, the most important part of any AI system is people, right? You and me. And AI systems can't take responsibility, right? And we can't hold them accountable. And as cool as AI is, right? There is very little accountability in our society right now for how people are employing AI, right? And what the short-term, medium-term, long-term ramifications of those things are. And what I've come to learn and seen, many other like thought leaders in the space talk about is like the technology lets us do more, right? But it doesn't make us better without very careful considerations. And so we have whatever level judgment, right, and skill we bring to the table, AI will give us more of that. And that could be awesome and can, have a double edge to it. And so AI literacy becomes increasingly important because with the absence of like regulations and stuff, it falls on us to know more about what this technology is doing for us, right? And for like people around us in society. With these systems, RAG systems, subject matter expertise is incredibly critical. I can build a RAG system, right? I cannot be the subject matter expert. I know this deeply, right, on an engineer like ethics level, and I would never attempt to pass that by anybody. So in order for me to make a system that helps somebody do their thing, whether it's a doctor, for example, right, or whomever, they need to be involved in checking that the RAG system is saying the right things for a certain amount, certain percentage of the time. And then part of the engineering process helps like generalize the performance. The privacy, security, right, and system trust are, in my mind, now non-negotiable. They used to be kind of negotiable because everything was super exciting, right? But there's just a waterfall of examples where people put passwords, right, into AI systems that have ended up in training data that have been, gotten out of other AI systems, or confidential information, like true trade secrets and so forth. And so if you're using a product, like a outward facing product like NotebookLM or Perplexity, right, so forth, do not put personally identifiable information. Definitely don't put like health information in there or anything that you wouldn't share under a non-disclosure agreement. Can talk about the whys of that, but those systems are not designed for handling that stuff. And if you need something that has stronger guarantees for, there's ways of approaching those RAG systems, but they're not off the shelf. And so, yeah, it's critically important, right, that we start paying more attention to these things. I have in Netsco, I like their recommended ethics. And the challenge with ethics is that it's slow, right? Like the ethical thinking was far beyond the pace of the technology and the people who are advancing it. And I'm bullish, right? Like I'm like, you can pursue AGI, artificial general intelligence. I don't care if we ever get there because we're going to discover all kinds of cool things along the way. But there's so much changing about the way that we work and the way that we think and interact with each other. Jobs, obviously, there are concerns that we need to start taking very seriously as individuals. So where Bruce and I work at this stuff, right, is we come into businesses, right, and we help them consult on their business processes. And when it makes sense to pull in different kinds of AI, right, we can help do that. But it's not the only thing that we do. And the, training and coaching are always part of what we do. But on any of the topics that I've discussed today, like we can go way deep. And so these are, things to keep in mind for the future. And I'll pause there. Thank you, everybody, for asking questions. And, Valley.
Ben, this has been phenomenal. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been great. We've had we've had a lot of questions come in, and yeah, we've had people saying brilliant, and coming back to some of those questions that people had. There's also Dana's question about being a solo practitioner and looking at kind of technologies and making it. Most folk on here, they started using, or most of them, I know there's one or two newcomers to the group, but they've been using NotebookLM. We've been going behind the scenes, etc., looking at kind of how they're used. And I suppose the question for folk would be, if you are, for enterprise, they understand that. But if you're a sole entrepreneur or you're individual, what would be kind of your suggestions kind of for them?
So so I'll see if I can catch that, and some of Dana's questions in here as well, right? The stuff that is off the shelf, right? The products like NotebookLM, Bruce and I use a lot of Gemini, right? And I also use AI for programming, right? The idea is to pull things that are productized over and give them a try. You need to experiment with them, partly because what marketing says about, oh, this kind of person, this kind of user, right? Like that may apply to you, may not apply to you. But these systems, you learn to use them, right? It's one of the strengths of them is you mess with them a little bit and you get used to them and you have your own style of interacting with them. And you get more value out of these systems, RAG or otherwise, by spending some time and doing a little bit of like mini experiments. Like, let's try drafting some marketing stuff. Try it a couple different ways, see what happens. And I do a lot of that kind of experimentation just to get a gist of the differences between some of these things. And so if you're on your own, right, or small shop, that's like the buy-ins there is like $30 a month. I mean, if you have access to multiple types of systems, which I do. I mean, sometimes it makes sense for me to hold, like 3 or 4 of those subscriptions, depending on the work that I'm doing. Now, when you have like non-disclosure type information, stuff that you don't want to disclose, right? The base level security of a system like NotebookLM is really good as far as external facing products go, but they don't offer guarantees about like where that data goes. So if you make a query in NotebookLM, or you put a document into NotebookLM and it has confidential information in it, that's on Google's server, right? By default. Now, Google will tell you they won't use that to train their models. That's good to know, right? But if there was a legal, like a subpoena, right, and your data is in NotebookLM, then a subpoena can open up your otherwise private NotebookLM data set and look inside and see what's in there. So it's not like super perfectly private all the time, right? And that's important. I'm not particularly paranoid one way or the other, right? I just try to be lucid about these things as an engineer, because at the end of the day, like, I've got to offer technical guarantees to people. And if someone says, we absolutely can't have that exposure, no matter what, under any circumstances, right? I'm like, all right, well, like at the extreme is we can build a system on a computer and put it in your office, right? That's not something that's helpful for a solopreneur unless they're in very, very specific niche. But you can use these current products at their relatively low price points to leverage some of these smart, overconfident intern use cases, keeping those in mind. And that can, with a little bit of practice, cut down some of the repetitive or some of the brute force labor that we have to do by 20, 40, 60%, depending on the type of work. And it's still pretty broad. Did I get, like I said, a sufficient answer?
Yeah, that's unless Dana's got, I mean, others may have a question. We've gotten over time, so I
Nope.
appreciate people's time. So if anyone needs to go, I will share that resource. I know Lucy's managed to come back, which is great. Does anybody have we addressed the questions that were posed? I think let's have a look to see if you got any. Let me just double check. I'll go into. Yeah, Ivan saying everyone have a brilliant Christmas. We've got this has been super helpful. There's been a lot of queries around kind of privacy around protecting information. That's often the case where we've spoken. So we've got a few coaches on about kind of anonymizing and making sure where we're thinking about transcripts. So what would be when, you know, and the other thing I just want to put a little note that when I was looking at, because I've been, kind of tinkering quite a lot with these tools and started building and looking at tools like Quadrant and there's Pinecone. And by the way, you don't need to know these terms. I will share these with you. And what was really interesting is not so much about almost the data, but also understanding how to retrieve that information because we're looking at vectors. So it's a completely different. So when you don't have that expertise, you could be going, it's great to experiment. You could really be going down a rabbit hole sometimes with these tools, like even trying to set it up and making it, speak to your GPT or whatever model you might be working with. So that's kind of just from my own experience. So this is super helpful. So looking at the architecture and it's not like you just take a pile of like data documents and just put them in there. There's got to be a
Yeah.
way to retrieve it and so what would be really helpful, Ben and Bruce, to come back and I go into some of those retrievals and way people can really understand it would be we'd really appreciate that. So
Yeah.
We got it on video, Gladys.
hey,
Yeah,
Gladys is here.
certainly, Bally, Ben and I are happy to join, and you're right. That's an excellent potential agenda item, right, for next time is even taking just one real use case and diving down, anonymized perhaps, but really diving down into it. That might be really helpful as a follow-up.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to invite you back and thank you so very much. And I know Gladys, it's your first time. It's been phenomenal having you on. And Gladys is also in this space. So I will share the recording with you, Gladys, and it's brilliant that you're here. As I was just saying to the others, these sessions run every 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, it's going to be holiday season, so there won't be a session, but we will reconvene on the 7th of January. We will bring you the most, updated information. I'm doing quite a lot with my own, like I'm in part of a mastermind, so I share kind of what I'm doing. I put some resources here. We'd love to invite Ben and Bruce back, and we can go into this a little bit more. But thank you so very much. Thank you. It's been, yeah, lots of people really enjoyed it. Yeah, so you can share your info, and if you've got questions, please do. I'm going to share a resource it's free, by the way, these resources. So you'll have like a library of stuff that I've put together. Some of the stuff that we talked about, if you missed that, love you, so share. That's my little gift for Christmas. I will be messaging all of you with the recording. So thank you so very much to Bruce and Ben. Okay, and everybody have an amazing Christmas. Thank you, Anita. Good to see you as well. So have a great Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'll message you with
Thanks, everybody.
recording. It's great
All
having you
right.
on. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Bruce.
All right. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Ciao from me, and I will be in touch via email. And all the best, and stay safe. Ciao from me. Ciao. Bye. Super good to see you. Ciao.